Welcome everyone. It has been a while. Welcome back to breaking news, IT breaking news. Today, Log4Shell remote code execution 0 day, already nearly a week out, 6 days or so. But we have been a little bit busy with our Linux distribution, right? So probably I should come back to more successful content like security vulnerabilities. We have done this over the last years regularly, just everything is so broken that I stopped a little bit. So what is that? That is a exploitable bug found in Log4j version 2, but version 1 is also remote code executable, so you want to upgrade either way in a very popular Java logging package. So a lot of stuff is noteworthy here. One thing is, of course, Java, as some microsystems develop that promise of more secure, memory safe and stuff language, not only recurrently remote code execution and other security vulnerabilities in Java, but also, if you add features that are not buffer overruns, you can have remote code execution not only in Java, but also Rust and any other language, right? And that's, for the most part, what happened here. So this is by the CVE 2021-44-228, 0-day arbitrary code execution, basically distributed remote code execution. And basically, before you turn off, basically that means the whole IT world is on fire. Because if you think you are not affected because you obviously don't run any Java code, then think again. Most likely your government, your bank, your energy company, they all love to run Java, also because Java was simply so popular at university, and all those, due to that, all those big enterprises. So you are affected even if you don't like it. My bank is probably affected, and my government, and maybe that is why Vodafone Doxis is broken in the office, who knows. So basically everything is on fire right now, everything being patched since 6 days, and everything leaving the world even more unsecure than it was already before, which we made already a dozen of videos that it is. Previously privately disclosed to Apache by Alibaba's cloud security team, November 24th, and then somehow probably leaked a little bit early. And what this, how this works is, it's a feature, right? So basically, this is not a classic C. We didn't get memory. Memory safety and stuff, but this is a feature, right? So who's impacted? Basically everyone, and blah blah blah. And so how this works is through Java. So this is working through some Java naming directory interface JNDI, allowing lookup of Java objects and in the program at runtime, and this is basically leveraging some logging feature, right? So you can have there format strings like a dollar, curly braces, prefix name, whatever. And so using that feature of having there any substitution, they basically, maybe for the most part, forgot that you can have their JNDI lookup stuff. So by specifying the lookup, for example, through some LDAP server, some arbitrary URL, maybe queried and loaded as Java object data, right? Amazing stuff. So basically, as exploiting this sort of as simple as dollar curly braces GNDI LDAP example com file, something will load this data connected to the internet, inputting that string. So of course you might need to escape that due to HTTP requests and so on. So crazy stuff, right? So a feature so multiple other things. Let's see, do we have, for example, vulnerable code of logging stuff? By the way, I think how many million lines, because there are multiple noteworthy things, except that Amazon, AWS, Cloudflare, iCloud, Minecraft, obviously Steam, Tencent, QQ, whatever. Here's actually a list, right? So some people maintain a list of everything affected, and everything between VMware, CA Advanced Authentication, Broadcom apparently support content, apps and services. So yeah, your stuff, by the way, I slightly wonder if this is truncated, because I somehow have the feeling this is not all about whatever. Maybe this is not the best list, there are multiple lists. So as I mentioned, this is so broken that some governments, including the German one, issued here alarm level red, critical, obviously infrastructure, right? And the problem is also that a lot of companies always sneak away with, yeah, it's software, we can't do anything, right? So that nobody takes any responsibility, because it's like, yeah, software, what you gonna do? Despite people like ourselves here shouting out, not only since I founded my company, Exacode, ironically, right, for more exact code since 2005, but obviously I wasn't the first to want to do more exact and secure and safe code. Basically, what decades of security researchers, thousands of them, said before and still say, more secure software, often usually for decades not in C or even in Java. And the problem is also, so one big problem, sneaking away with taking responsibility, right? As so often politicians these days, it's like, yeah, wasn't informed, it's not my department, yada yada, whatever. And this needs to stop, right? It's not like it's software what you're gonna do. No, it is if you build a car without brakes, or if you build a car with broken brakes, just the usual amazing car analogy. If you build a car cheating environmental emission standards, you need to take responsibility, right? And so basically, this is logging software with features that allow remote code execution by design, right? And this is the first thing. The next thing is, of course, complexity, right? Actually, I wanted to Google that. I forgot this. I read somewhere that this log4j lines of code, that this is huge, like hundreds of thousands of codes. And then I also wanted to say that you don't need hundreds of thousands of lines for logging, right? In my opinion, as I said here so often already, stuff is way too complex, and this is what you get with complexity, right? If you make stuff overly complex, overly feature-rich, then yeah, you have the recurring theme here of trusted compute base, and the more features you put there into your logging, just don't find this here instantly. But as usual, but I think I read somewhere hundreds of thousands of lines of code, which wouldn't surprise me with all those features here. And we need to make stuff simpler, right? Not because I personally like more simple software, but because with everything you put in there, you increase the risk of bugs. Each code of line, if given how many bugs, like hashtag Pete bugs, right? Apple's macOS has, or other software, Microsoft Windows, or Java or Log4j, that let's say 10% or whatever that, but certainly with all those bugs, I would actually kind of sort of, yeah, depending on your language, but maybe up to 10% or so, then each line of code is 10% risk of having a bug or security vulnerability. And this is why stuff should be simple as possible. And that is unfortunately not using this design criteria. And the result of that is what we have here. As usual, leave in the comments below if you want to see more. It's like exploit types of that. This is all, by the way, what I was talking about, exploiting that. And the next thing, so basically that means is most stuff that parses data is usually sooner or later vulnerable to this attack using log4j. Android, some people on Twitter said, yeah, but Android, I read on Android that, I read on Twitter from other security experts, as I'm personally not the biggest into Android's Java, that they don't support Java naming and dictionary interface. So, because some people said, yeah, why are there not thousands of Google's Play Store and stuff updates. It's like, yeah, apparently Android maybe not supporting Java naming and dictionary interface. There are two more things. One thing is, or maybe three. So one thing is news already reporting hackers launch over 850,000 attacks through log4j. It's like, yeah, no, kidding. If I would have my regular Horizon setup, I would play some love for now, but yeah. That's what we have here. So allegedly, as usual, it's usually the Chinese and Russians, but obviously the US and all other secret services as well. Points out attacks related to the vulnerability had escalated in 72 hours since Friday. It's like, yeah, guess if you have a vulnerability in nearly every software component, especially network and infrastructure connected, then it's like, yeah, hackers, crackers, and governments attacking that. Naturally, obviously, especially with all the US, EU, German cyber security command stuff and like leaving their permanent data collection services installed. So yeah, obviously, right, do as like who was thinking elsewhere. There are two more things. The one thing is we shouldn't blame those log4j developers too much, and that is the major point here also, which I also shouted out already a dozen of times and made dedicated videos about, which is earning a living with open source here, even on my own. Also here with this channel, which I run this YouTube channel for, which is exactly more people chiming in, now security researchers, just exactly what I had here already said for years. Open source is underfinanced, so we shouldn't blame those log4j developers because they mostly do that, mostly unpaid as per usual with open source in their spare time. Although I still would not have added those features in there and wouldn't need 100,000 lines for logging. Keep stuff beautiful, simple. If your logging is more than a couple of thousand lines, maybe you're doing your logging wrong. But other people, like here's a register, but also I saw this multiple prominent people, security researchers, and so on Twitter, is big tech, as I usually call it here, exploiting open source. And I, of course, said for years, yes, if you don't pay for this stuff, then this is what you get. And also, in any case, the log4j developer, I would actually go as far as the log4j developer should not be blamed at all, because they provided this as a hobby in their spare time. And if big mega corporations use that as an integral primary part of their infrastructure, they had to review that, right? They didn't pay a single cent, and they didn't even spend the resources to review it properly, right? So the only one who is to blame is per usual, foremost anyway, those who used it and who didn't check it properly, right? If you use open source, first of all, you should actually give back and donate some and stuff. And in any case, at least review it, obviously. Give the review back, like previously the BSI, I think, gave some security study back to Botan security, similar to the previous OpenSSL security vulnerability that was big some 5 or so, long time ago, 5 years ago. So yeah, recurring theme, big tech, also Google, Apple, Microsoft, Facebook, and all the others, Oracle and so on. They are all riding for free, having a free ride here on the open source bandwagon, usually giving next to nothing back. And we need to talk about this, right? Which is why I do this here on this channel. I put my little money that I earn with YouTube. Also, yeah, fun fact, the last 12 months I earned more with your amazing donations on Patreon, GitHub sponsors. And that is not even much, right? I'm earning a couple of 200 euros a month plus YouTube AdSense. So it's starting to be not even a basic income, just a little bit filling the tip jar here. But that is more than I usually got every other month the last 20 years, right? So I made this other video, earning a living with open source by becoming a YouTuber, right? And I put my money where my mouth is with that and put out the first giving back to the community T2 features. And I like to pay for features because I hate this because I want to incentivize people writing good stuff and implementing features, and not only because so far the big problem with that, which I mentioned in this other video as well, is that so far big tech and big business is only paying for bugs, right? And in my opinion, that is the wrong incentive. So this pays, and this is also crazy, right? So the people creating software like log4j and other Linux kernel drivers, reverse engineering the Apple M1 Max stuff here, and other stuff, they get next to nothing except Patreon and GoFundMe. And those security researchers who only, so they contribute security, but they do not contribute to the infrastructure. That's true, they make the infrastructure more secure, and that is certainly a welcome thing. But this is crazy, right? That we pay them really good, some security researchers, InfoSec and stuff, uncovering such bugs like this, earn a good living, and of course they should, but they should not be the only ones, right? So that is a disconnect. The creators of this Log4j, other open source projects, image codecs, GNOME, KDE and stuff, sure, some work at Red Hat, some work at SUSE, but as a whole, most people get next to nothing. And that needs to change. And I said this 100 times, and this is just a recurring reminder that this is a consequence of that. And yeah, in my opinion, last but not least, the Linux Foundation, I said this also before, Linus Torvalds gets there 100,000 plus millions, and other people too. And in my opinion, the Linux Foundation is a little bit strange organization, which I also said before. In my opinion, they should give more back to the whole community as a whole, not only to Linus Torvalds, who of course should get something, but the Linux Foundation is doing a lot of other stuff with IBM, firefighter programs, and water shortage in Africa, which are of course good projects, but maybe those firefighter support programs in the US and drinking water for Africa should be financed from other pots. Certainly even governments, development stuff, and Germany is one of those companies who is contributing a lot to that. Of course, we all should do even more, and I only want to say that the budget that the Linux Foundation has should maybe better spent among those Linux developers, Linux distributions, all those developers from Arch, Gentoo, and all the other Debian, probably Debian and FreeBSD and OpenBSD, other potentially underfunded projects I see. Usually probably FreeBSD is not really reaching, just from the top of my mind, from my memory, might be wrong, but I see usually a lot of projects like FreeBSD and Haiku not reaching their sponsorship goals, which some are even small, right? 50,000 or even 10,000 euro, and they don't even reach that. So yeah, this drastically need to change. And I would also in general recommend to vote with your wallet and rather support small companies, small local companies, local developers. If local open source developers have hardware projects, buy the hardware, like if you like some vintage retro, some FPGA stuff like we do here on this channel. Rather, instead of buying some new Google gadget, do you really need a new phone? Can you not rather donate $100 to some open source project of your liking? That instead of giving Google, Amazon and Apple and Facebook all your money, and making rather contribute, instead of contributing to Elon Musk and Bezos and stuff, and Tim Apple getting richer, contributing to all those developers who for 30 years doing all those infrastructure, Linux kernel, network drivers, network stack, firewalls, logging systems, everything underfunded like crazy. And that is really a sad thing, which I will continue to shout out here and hopefully inspire and put some light on. So that's basically it. I hope I didn't forget too much. The next time, I said this in my other live streams, we recently have done here obviously too much Linux distribution stuff. I probably should go back to making a little bit more successful videos. So probably New Year resolution here, 2020 or 2021 already coming to an end. Probably New Year resolution, more systematic and more mainstream YouTube content here. So meaning maybe once a week. IT breaking news like we previously did, and more pre-edited videos there on the Moment channel. and not only this boring infrastructure cross-compiling Linux stuff that we probably did too much recently. I hope you learned something with this shout out. Let's take a quick look into the comments. Yeah, at least Static so far enjoyed it there in the comments. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you soon for more of this stuff to come.